So a continuation about how this program started, why we do what we do. The goal of the program is to help you to get your children to heaven. It's your primary job as people who've been entrusted by God with your children, the greatest blessings of your lives, to get them to heaven. And our job is to help you to have happy, holy, young people who are capable of making good choices once they leave the program, and that they be lifelong committed Catholics. And part of that, for me, is knowing my own weaknesses. I'll tell you them. So I'll tell you my strengths first, because there's so many. I'll just tell you a couple. Just kidding. So I'm a good public speaker. I can talk to people for a long amount of time without them being bored. That's one of my blessings that I can do. I'm a very good teacher. Extraordinary. So good. I'm very good at thinking out a problem and seeing what's wrong with a program. I'm good at a lot of things. But what I'm not good about is I'm not organized. I have a lot of negative self-talk in my head. I tell myself all the things that could possibly go wrong. I stress out very easily. And I'm not good at games. I forgot to mention, I do go on retreats all over the world to talk to different youth programs. And I do really good at that. But I'm bad at, hey everybody, come, let's gather around, let's get to know one another. I'm very bad at that, believe it or not, if you can't tell. So I said to Father Uriel, Father, if you want me to do this, I need the best assistant. Okay, you know, we don't have a lot of money. I don't care, there's no assistant that's too expensive for us. Oh, we don't have any money. And I said, Father, if it's God's will, God's got a lot of money. And he says, okay, just don't forget, we don't have very much money. All right. So I went through my Facebook account and I looked at all the people who are involved in youth ministry, and I went to each of them and I said, what program do you use? What works for you? What doesn't work for you? And I came across this girl, her name's Claire. My gosh, she's a blessing from God, seriously. And I said, what program do you use? And she says, oh, don't worry, I'll email you. And she emailed me what program, a breakdown of the night, minute by minute, speaker by speaker. And then I said, I'm bad at retreats. What retreat programs? Oh, I've done Teen Acts. I've done this retreat. I'm just coming back from this retreat. And she'd send me minute by minute, hour by hour, who was doing what, who was doing this, what games they were playing, how we're going to, touch the hearts of the kids. And I said, will you come to Houston? No, I'm not coming to Houston. And then I went, a week goes by. I don't find exactly what I feel like God's saying. He's saying, keep searching. No. So then I text Claire again. I sent her like 10 messages in a row, all caps, all exclamation points. Come to Houston, come to Houston, come to Houston, come to Houston, come to Houston. And then she's like, no. Under what circumstances would you come to Houston? It would have to be God's will. I said, yes, I can work with that. If she said under no circumstances, I can't work with that. She didn't say if you paid me a lot of money. Yes, check, number one, all right. So she went and told her mother, Mom, this guy wants me to move to Houston. What? Who is this guy? Some guy from the internet. No, you're not moving to Houston because of some guy from the internet. Where did you meet this guy? Oh, he's got a YouTube channel. I've seen his videos. So her mom wanted to see my videos, and Claire showed her a video on the apparitions of Lourdes. I made one of the best videos in the apparitions of Lourdes ever made. And at the end of the video, her mom said, you need to tell him you're going to Houston. And I said, wow, God's will, come to Houston. But she has a boyfriend, a very, very, very serious boyfriend. And I was thinking, oh God, this is not going to go well. I met a guy on the internet, he wants me to come to Houston. She told her boyfriend about it. He's living in Canada now, so it's not like they were seeing each other. She's from Massachusetts. And he said, yeah, I think it's a good idea. And I said, whoa, God, you're doing good work now. And then she asked her priest, her spiritual director, and he also said it was a very good idea. So wow, that's why she's here. 2 weeks later, she's here. So I would like all of you to thank Claire for coming to help to Houston. She left her family, she left her friends, she left her job. Why? Because she believes that being here right now for your kids is God's will. I am here as the youth minister because I personally believe it's God's will. But in addition to that, and so this is a picture from Claire, she left her own children for your children. Isn't that good? Look how happy those kids look. I didn't even have to give them $5 for that picture. I haven't forgot, I owe you $5. Then I thought we need the absolute if this is going to be the best program, it's going to be because the people who are involved are the absolute best people that I could possibly imagine. I prayed very hard. I said, Lord, what if you had your program, what would the youth leaders, what would the core team members of your program look like? And he said, first and foremost, they'll love the Lord their God above all else. And I said, what about ones that are good speakers? What about ones that are so talented in this and that? He said, first and foremost, they love the Lord their God above all else. Because all of these youth, they all have their own problems. They all have their own temperaments. They all have their own psychological tendencies. What they need is somebody who's genuinely, authentically striving to love God. And so we took this picture yesterday, actually. All of these youth ministers, all of these core team members here who are wearing red shirts, they all spent 1 hour before the Lord, kneeling down, praying for your children, praying for this program. This is my ideal. It doesn't matter. They look good. They're very handsome. They wear red shirts. They're so smart. But this is my ideal of a good core team. People who put Jesus Christ in the Eucharist number one. Who put the church number one. Are they failures in many things? Oh, they're just human like all of us. But they love God, and that's what we need first and foremost. People who genuinely are living the Catholic faith. They're genuinely living or trying to live all of the teachings of the Catholic faith. They pray the rosary every day. They're going to Mass every week. They're going to confession frequently. They're perfect role models. These are individuals who I myself would want my own children to be like. I wouldn't put my children in the hands of other people, and that's why I have chosen or asked them, because I trust them with my kids. So I could only hope that you will trust my judgment of what I would do with my very own children, which I take very seriously. And on a daily basis, every time I see them, I thank them so much. I say, thank you guys so much for being here. And they're like, dude, stop thanking us. But it's because, to me, honestly, you guys do not realize how special you are. It is a blessing for me to be able to come to work, to do something that is challenging and fulfilling, and be able to see such extraordinary individuals standing with me. It's a blessing. It makes me want to cry. God has blessed us so greatly. And so you are extraordinarily blessed to have these core team members living and working with your youth. Now, there are going to be temptations, and we're going to talk about these throughout this program, because if this program is going to be great, there's going to be spiritual temptations to attack it. So on the first couple of weeks, or maybe even months, you might hear from your teen, I don't like my core team member. I don't like the kids in my group. Welcome to life. You don't always like the people that you're with, but part of life is learning to love other people despite their weaknesses. Saint Jose Maria Escriva, who's a great saint who I really love, we have his relics in the chapel, would say, don't say I would only be holy if this person wasn't like this. Say, this person helps me be holy because they're helping me to be patient. These are the best of the best. I'm just saying that these temptations are going to naturally arise. They might say, youth group is boring. Oh, I don't want to go. Anything's boring compared to playing video games and watching football and doing whatever I want to do. That's natural. But I promise you, if you persevere in this program, by the end, I'm going to show you what is my goal for your children. You want to see what my goal is? The next slide. This is my goal. That they be just like their youth leaders. That they be committed to Jesus Christ in the Eucharist. That they be committed to the church. That they pray the rosary. That they have holy habits. And that's why I picked these people, because you can only give what you have. You can't give something you do not have. And so I want to emphasize to you that prayer is going to be first and foremost our goal here. That they have an authentic relationship with Jesus Christ. Because let's be honest, right now, the church is a mess. If you don't have a reason to be Catholic, I could understand why people would leave the church. If bishops, if priests are accused of child abuse in one state, I can only imagine that it's happening in other states where there have not been proper investigations. But guess what? These people are not going to leave the Catholic Church because Jesus is in the Catholic Church. They're not going to leave the Catholic Church because the church is more than just the members. The church is the body of Christ. And if Christ has the truth and the church is offering the truth, there is nothing that's going to separate us or your children from God. Is that not what you want for your children? Amen? Yes or yes? There's a terrible statistic. I just read it recently it was like the Daily Mail article. They said that the number one religion that loses people the quickest, the most, is the Catholic faith. It breaks my heart because I'm very open and honest with the challenges. We have more people registered right now for confirmation than we've had in many, many years. That's a great thing. My fear is that after confirmation, they don't come back. We're opening wide the doors of confirmation. We're opening wide the graces of the sacrament. Why? Because your children need the help of God. It's going to be your responsibility to push them, to make them keep coming back. Because if 90% of high schoolers leave the Catholic faith when they go to college, what are the percentages if they leave the Catholic faith when they're a junior or a sophomore in high school? Extraordinarily stronger. If the sacrament of confirmation makes you a soldier for Jesus Christ, it's a special outpouring of the Holy Spirit at Pentecost, why am I going to stop attending, stop strengthening myself, stop building my faith immediately after the sacrament? That's not the purpose of it. We keep coming back to grow in strength. And so if you care as much as I care, and I know you do because these are your children, you have to ask yourself, as long as they're under my roof, I will do everything possible to get them there. And see, people will say, well, I don't want to force it on them. That's the only way that they're going to be exposed to the faith. When they leave your house, yeah, they can make whatever choices. You've done the best you can. But they're not going to grow in a relationship with the church or with Jesus or with the faith unless they're being exposed to that. That's not like an option, and it shouldn't be. And I encourage you to stand strong in that. Because the choices we make teach a lesson about what's important. If you go on vacation and you don't go to Mass, for example, you're, without using words, saying, there are certain circumstances in which God is not number one. Does that make sense? I don't care if we're in Hawaii, we're going to the Catholic Church on Sunday. That's saying God is number one no matter what the circumstances. So we have to be careful of the unspoken messages that we might be communicating. So now let's go into what the program actually is. So I have a picture. Go back, Jesus. Mary, please help me. My poster, thank you. There's a river there. I would like you to think of faith formation as a river. Because I've been getting a lot of emails saying, how do I get my child confirmed? Very good question. And then I say, they also have to be enrolled in faith formation. So confirmation isn't the end-all, be-all. It's been held as a captive. How can I get that treasure that the church has been keeping for my children? That's not the way I want you to think about it. I want you to think of faith formation as a large river, and then oratory as a little branch, and confirmation as a little branch, and retreats as a little branch, and any other extra things that we offer as little branches, little creeks that are all feeding back into this main river. Every Sunday we will meet starting next Sunday. On all paperwork, it has been saying 3 p.m. After that, I've been putting 2:45. Why? Because I really want your kids to start arriving at 2:45 because the program starts immediately at 3 p.m. At 3:01, they're tardy. 3 tardies equals 1 absence. If they arrive at 2:45, they'll be able to play games, they'll be able to do socialization and things like that. So I'm going to talk to you about why that way. So I've done a lot of research into temperaments. There's 4 main temperaments. There's choleric, sanguine, melancholic, and phlegmatic. I'm not going to go into that now. But the sanguines are the ones who are more social, who are more bubbly, who like playing games and all of these things. But that's only 1/4 of the temperaments. In my meetings with Matt Johns, he said that about 1/4 to maybe a little bit, maybe 1/3 of the youth loved the music. Hey, yes, Lord, yes, Lord, yes, yes, Lord. Oh, I love this. This is the best. And then 2/3 of the kids are like, oh, dear God, please, can make this stop. Make this stop. I'm going to be so embarrassed if I dance with all these people. But there are benefits to it, obviously. There's benefits to socialization. There's benefits to relaxation and to meeting your neighbor. So we're going to offer that, but not necessarily make it mandatory. Because again, we want to open the doors wide. We don't want to have an excuse for anybody to leave. So does that make sense? So we're going to have fun. We're going to have socialization, but we're going to try and do it the fun stuff before and then moderately peppered throughout the day, okay? So why Sunday? Well, we're trying to build a community of faith here, and we need to see each other. Imagine if you have somebody you love, and you only saw them once or twice every 2 or 3 months. Wow, that relationship is going to be a little weak. But then if you see them weekly, or sometimes twice a week, or 3 times a week, you're able to build a stronger relationship. And we're doing it at 3 p.m. because some people said, well, I remember when it was at 7 p.m. Oh, I do too. It was miserable, no offense. But as a parent, I have children who have to go to school Monday morning. If I'm not getting home till 9:30, that's not good. Your teenagers, they have school the next day. They might have a test. If they're not getting home till 9:30, they're really going to resent every single second that we waste over there. So we're doing it at 3 p.m. because seriously, when at 3 p.m. normally I'm like chilling, eating chips, doing nothing really important. So I respect your time. I respect the time that you have as a family in the evenings, and I respect the time of my volunteers. That's why we're doing it at 3 p.m.
But remember, I said there's more than one reason for everything that we're doing. Yes or yes?
Also, if we start at 3 p.m. and we end at 4:15, 4:20, the hope, the desire, my strong, I don't know the proper word, my strong inclination is to push everybody to go to Mass at 5 p.m. It breaks my heart. Like I mentioned, I've been doing CCE for so many years, and it would break my heart the amount of kids when asked, did you guys go to Mass on Sunday? And only 1/4 or 1/5 say, yeah, we go to Mass on Sundays. And then the majority of the class, their parents aren't taking them to Mass. That's the majority. And it would break my heart. So now, if that's your family, if you yourself have personal blockages that are keeping you from going to Mass, now you can at least say, my son, my daughter, this is what's best for you. Go to Mass as a group, and we'll all attend the 5 o'clock Mass together. And we'll all pray the rosary before Mass together. And what will happen if they get in this habit of being in a community of faith with their peers, when they leave your house and you're not there to make them go to Mass, they will be in the habit of finding out a community of believers and sticking with them and praying with them and going to Mass and receiving Holy Communion and praying after with them. So this is a very interesting transitional year, because as a parent, I can appreciate wanting to, because you might say, well, our family goes to Mass together at 10 a.m. I can appreciate that. And if you really feel strongly about that, I respect that. But there's going to be a transitional period, and you know your children better. If it means that I think that my children are the types to not go to Mass when they go to college, then I would push them, if I were you, even if you value going as a family, to go to Mass with their peers at 5 o'clock so that they can be surrounded by a community of believers. I think that's going to be very powerful and very important. Now, because we're going to Mass, I don't like to be the boogeyman or the mean man who's like, no, you gotta wear your dress code, you must wear a potato sack, and you must be very modest at all times. I believe in modesty, I do. But I'm not going to force that upon anybody, but it's very important that, again, everything we do communicates a message. Is going to Mass different than going to a baseball game? Yes, it is. Should I prepare for Mass slightly better than when I prepare for a baseball game? Yeah, I think a lot better. But so we're going to have a few rules. And these are very simple. You can write them down, but I think they're easy to remember. No shorts. That's easy. And no graphic t-shirts, unless, because I'm not a monster, unless they are religious graphic t-shirts. So what do I mean by a graphic t-shirt? I mean, like, so for example, 3 weeks ago I was at 5 o'clock Mass, and I was learning all about the African Student Association at OSU. And I was like, wow, there sure are a lot of Africans at OSU. And I was reading all about it. And then I was like, wait, I'm at Mass. Why am I reading about this? So if we're going to advertise for other organizations, let's not do that at Mass. If you're going to wear a t-shirt, at least let it be a Catholic t-shirt. And we are going to sell you all of our remaining Catholic t-shirts that we had in the youth lounge for $5. So that you have options, okay? So I think these are all very reasonable rules. So no shorts. If they're wearing skirts, is 4 fingers above the knee. Everybody have 4 fingers. If you only have 3 fingers, then 3 fingers above the knee. Okay? Just so that when you're sitting, if they're doing a game, they're not with their skirt all up in everybody's business. Boys too. We don't want to see the boys' business either. Also, one more rule. leggings do not equal pants, especially for Mass, okay? All right. Now, we are going to have extra stuff. You've been given a calendar. So every Sunday we have our primary faith formation. Great. That's what they'll be doing the majority of their learning. This is the way the day will go. There will be a gather at 3 o'clock. We'll gather all the kids together. We'll do some prayer. And then we will have the proclaim. So I'm using language like, what is this language he's using, this jargon? This is a mixture. So we want the best program. We are taking the best of every other program and making it our own. So I'm using Life Team language right now with gather and proclaim. Basically, there's going to be like a 20 to 30 minute teaching of some sort, and we'll talk about that in a moment. And then we will break into small groups. I don't know if you've ever seen so many volunteers in a youth program ever before. I have not. We have enough youth core team members to have 1 adult per 5 children. So what we're going to do is we're going to have small groups from 7 to 11 students with 2 adults. And I've tested all of their personalities to make sure that the adults fit like this so that they get along so well and they have a unified message. Now, we have a double program that we're doing. So the best program that's available right now is the Chosen program by Ascension Press. It's a video program that has some of the best speakers that I've ever heard personally. But we're not going to do that every week because I know how it is. Mom, why do I have to keep going? We just keep watching videos. Oh gosh, I'm tired of the video, Mom. Okay, I understand. I'm tired of the video too, bro. Just chill. So every other week we'll do the video program. There will always be somebody giving a little testimonial, a little witnessing. Also, we'll have a saint of the day. On the weeks that we're not using the Chosen program, we have a guest speaker. The very first guest speaker will be a guy, Doug Barry. He was on EWTN, Life on the Rock. He'll also be giving a presentation in the evening on the 23rd at 7 p.m. After that, we have Deacon Justin Cormie. We have Dr. Roland Miliari. We've got good guest speakers, but they're going to be peppered out every other week, maybe a guest speaker twice a month, okay? We're also going to have an apologetics of the day. And so you get the idea. There's prayer, there's fun, there's prayer, there's a lesson, there's discussion, there's closing prayer. Then hopefully we can all go to Mass as a group and really say, the parish will be like, wow, look at all these young people. I'm not so depressed anymore. The news is not always telling me the truth. There's hope in the world. People are going to church again. Okay, so all the old ladies can sleep easy at night. All right. The next part is why the majority of you are here. And that is for confirmation. So faith formation is for everybody. Faith formation is every Sunday. Every Wednesday, we still have oratory. Oratory, for lack of a better word, is an opportunity to be more spiritual, more social, and that will take place in the youth lounge. Let me take one step back. If you'll look at this room, again, we asked questions. Why is this room so stark? It's like inside of an airplane hangar. It's so, if you weren't in here now. So we put banners, we put religious art, because of course the kids might be bored one day, it's going to happen. And they can say, oh, what is this picture of this old man carrying a baby? Although you can go to many saints, go to Saint Joseph. He has great power with God. Oh, wow. Who is this old guy with a big beard? What is this bearded man's big head back there? Abandon yourself into the hands of Mary. She will take care of you. Week after week, they're reading this. Maybe your son or your daughter comes here and they're depressed. Maybe they're being bullied at school, or maybe there's something going on at home and they're so stressed. And they read this, abandon yourself into the hands of Mary. And they say, fine, Mary, you take care of it. And they get some inspiration, or this idea gets embedded in their head. So we're thinking of the teaching, we're thinking of, so that's the truth, we're thinking of goodness, the goodness of your volunteers, and we're thinking of also instilling beauty in them. So oratory is going to take place in the youth lounge, which is in that building across the street. And when I went in there and I said, let's proclaim truth, let's do goodness, let's do beauty. And I looked in there and I said, oh God, please, this room is so ugly. It's pink. It's purple. Everything is broken. Broken pool table, broken pool cues. The ping pong paddles look like children have been chewing on them because they were starving. And so I told these wonderful youth leaders, actually this was Claire's idea. She said, Gabriel, stop complaining. Let's just go paint the room and throw away all the trash. And then so she organized it immediately. She sent out an email, and all of these wonderful people 2 weeks ago were here for over 12 hours, throwing away trash, sweeping the floor, collecting all the roach legs from the ground, getting rid of all the rat traps, and painting the walls now that they're a nice light gray, which is very good for watching movies. One of the walls has a nice accent light blue color. We're putting religious art in there. But we're poor. We don't have too much money. The chairs still look as if an old man has been urinating in them every night. The floors still look like some crimes happened in the room. So, if any generous parents would love to say, you know what, these are my kids after all. I cannot have my kids sitting and urinating. For the record, I don't know that anybody's actually been urinating in them. That's just what I think. So, after the fact, after this program, if you want to go in the youth lounge and look around and say, I've heard this commercial for oopsteamcleaning.com. Okay, well, feel free to call them and have them clean our couches. Just a little FYI. So oratory will happen every Wednesday in the lounge. Claire is going to be leading those every Wednesday because she's so loving, she's so soft, she's so social. So Claire's very good with that kind of stuff. Even if your child is very introverted, I promise you, there are walls that are built up because of our temperament, but there's also walls that are built up because we've been hurt, we've been maybe treated badly at school by other people. And so for them to come to an environment where they're not going to be judged, where they're going to be loved, where they're going to be cared about, and where those kind of values are going to be encouraged, it's going to change them. To be with individuals who will care about them and accept them for who they are, their good and their bad, that's going to change them. So I encourage you, we have that on Wednesday nights. In addition to that, if you were to look at your calendar, you can if you'd like, we're also going to offer random stuff. So I said that Matt Johns had given me a list of all the programs that crashed and burned. What I noticed about those programs was that if they lasted longer than 4 weeks, they crashed and burned. So we have stuff that is going to be sporadically peppered in throughout the year. This is something that I've gained from being the evangelization czar, the person in charge of adult programming while I was here, is that people like little projects. So on the first Friday of October at 7 o'clock, we'll have a movie night with pizza. We'll call it a pizza night. And then if the teens are able, we'll encourage them to go to the first Friday vigil where they can go to confession and go to adoration and pray the rosary and those kind of things. I believe the third, fourth, and last week of October on Tuesday night, we will have a Bible study called Presence. It's on the Eucharist and the importance of the Mass. That, again, is only 3 weeks. The following month, we will have 2 weeks of Lectio Divina, where that's reading the Bible, sharing what you think the Lord is saying to you through the Scriptures. And Christmas, in December, we'll have another movie night. We'll have a Christmas party. In addition to our Sunday faith formation, our Wednesday oratory. So I hope you're beginning to see that the goal is to try to offer your children a community to come to that will support them and nourish their faith. So that's our goal with that. Now, what you've all been waiting to hear about, confirmation. Sorry, I had to get all that in before you blocked it all out and said, we're only here for confirmation. I'm just kidding, it's not going to happen. So in order to be for confirmation, I have to be very clear because I've repeated this 50 times and I don't want to repeat it 50 more. In order to be in confirmation, you should have been already registered for and attending actively faith formation for at least 1 year. That would mean last year you were doing Super Saturdays. So faith formation has now gone from Super Saturday to every super duper amazing awesome Sunday. Okay? So every Sunday now, but at least 1 year. You also have to at the same time as confirmation, be going to faith formation. So faith formation is the constant that is offered every year. We're expecting it year after year. It's part of the long-term vision that must go on. Confirmation has to go on at the same time. It's kind of like everybody's doing the spiritual regimen and now we're going into boot camp or we're going in to train for the Navy SEALs and then we're coming back into faith formation every Sunday. That makes sense? So you have to be doing both at the same time. So those are the 2 requirements. You have to have been enrolled in high school faith formation for 1 year and you must currently be enrolled and participating in faith formation. Attendance for faith formation is at least 80%. So confirmation preparation class is going to be every other Wednesday starting on September the 26th. with a couple of anomalous dates that are kind of like, because something's going on in here. So the first day of confirmation preparation is September 26th here at 6:30 in this room. Now, confirmation preparation is not going to be fun. Just letting you know. It's preparation. It's going to be tough. It's going to be rigorous. It's going to be entertaining. It's going to be challenging. It's going to prepare them for the sacrament so that they can live their faith very strongly for the rest of their lives. It's going to be very crowded in here. It's going to be like this many people. So it's going to be very important that your children are on their best behavior. I'm very lenient. I tend to think that if a person isn't listening to you, how much of that is my fault? So I try to be as engaging and as entertaining as possible. We're going to cover so many things. How do I know that God exists? How do I know that Jesus existed? Everything that's important in a teenager's life, they are going to get it 100% the truth without sugarcoating it, and they are going to be much better for it. I've got several people here in my adult group who have taken my adult confirmation class. This is basically going to be their adult confirmation class because these young people are being attacked left and right by the culture, by the world, by the media with anti-Christ values. Every day they turn on the TV, they're hearing not necessarily anti-Christ like the scary anti-Christ, but like anti-God values. If you just think about the last time you turned on TV, how many times do we see physical intimacy between two people on television who are not married? All the time. When's the last time you turn on the TV and you have two married people who are actually happy and love each other? Never. Never. When's the last time you turn on the radio and you hear about real authentic love? Unless maybe you're listening to country western, old country western from the 80s. But other than that, every day they're getting bombarded with anti-Christ values. So it's important that we plug them in so that they are firmly rooted in the truth of Jesus Christ. So confirmation, you've been given a sheet. If you want, I made 100 copies of these because, you know, sometimes when you do things in typing and all the font is very similar, you don't realize what's so important. And so I put 3 big stars. 1 year faith formation, you must be in both capital letters, double underlined. Confirmation prep, I've given you the dates. Confirmation itself is on February the 15th. That's a Friday, February the 15th. Also, your children must attend 2 retreats. I know this is a lot of information, but my guardian angel is going to make sure that you don't forget. He's going to go to your house and say, don't forget, they've got to do 2 retreats. All right. So there's one mandatory must go to retreat, and that's in January. January 18th, 19th, and 20th. It was going to be $125. I had a meeting with some of the older youth teenagers to pick their brains, ask them questions. They said, where's the retreat going to be? And I said, and they immediately went like this, no! And I said, what's wrong? The food is terrible. There were bugs in the room. No! And I looked at Claire and I was like, this isn't good. And then we talked about it and we said, a person's confirmation retreat, when you think of your mandatory retreat for confirmation, I don't want you to look back and think, the food was terrible, there were bugs all over my bed. That's not what you should be thinking about when you're thinking of your confirmation retreat. So we're going to get it in a better facility, and it's going to cost $10 more. It's worth it for your kids to think of confirmation retreat and think of anything other than how bad the food was and how there were bugs all over their bed. But I am sensitive to cost. I came from a single-parent family. I grew up in A-Leaf. I went to Elsick High School. We were poor. I wore the same shirt several times a week, the same pants. So I know cost is an issue. So what we've done is we've changed the fall retreat to only be $40. So as opposed to having $125 in the fall and then $125 in January, now there's a $40 budget retreat in the fall and then $135, a little bit more than budget retreat for the one that is really going to matter right before they get confirmed. So the retreat in the fall, so there's 4 retreat options. So you must do the confirmation one in January. And you must do one of these 4 other retreats. There's the fall retreat, which is $40, which will be here. Here? Yeah, I know. That's how come it's so cheap. Hello, we're just paying for food and for t-shirts. The fall retreat here, which is November 2nd and 3rd. It's a Friday, from 5 p.m. until midnight on Friday night, and then 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. on Saturday. 2 days. The beautiful thing about that is it's the same time as First Friday Vigil, and it allows there to be like 5 confessors hearing confessions of 120 people, as opposed to poor Father Urel can barely walk after hearing all of those sins. It's like, oh, where am I? Oh, Father, don't worry, you're at the retreat. So, and you're going to get a form for this, but just so that you know, it's November the 2nd and November the 3rd from 5 p.m. until midnight, and then the next day from 10 a.m. until 6 p.m. So basically we'll go to the 5 o'clock Mass on Saturday. So that's that. We have the January retreat is going to be at Forest Glen. You'll be getting all this information. You don't need to know it right now. It's going to be from Friday to Sunday, the confirmation retreat, and it's the day before Martin Luther King Day, so that you won't be like, my kid can't go, he's got a test on Monday. There's no school on Monday. My kid can't go, he's sick. No, your kid can go. Okay. The 2 other retreat options there are, which have already passed, are the Steubenville Conference, which I strongly encourage all of you to go to. That's about $300 to $400. And then there's an AYC conference. I have found that the teenagers who attend everything, who attend most of the retreats, and go to Steubenville are changed individuals. Because the Steubenville Conference allows there to be, just imagine your teen being with 2,000 other kids or 3,000 other kids who love God and they're all about it and they're all really excited. It makes a difference in their lives. So those are the 4 retreats. If for some reason you can't make that fall retreat, as much as it pains me, we'll figure something out else. If you cannot attend the confirmation retreat, as much as it's going to pain you, you're going to have to find another parish and go on the retreat with that parish. Okay? We're going to require 100% attendance for confirmation. But what if my kid is sick? What is going on? Okay, so let me make this clear. Previously, to get confirmed, you had to be in a 2-year program. This is an 8-week program. You cannot miss. If you do miss, like I'm doing right now for this class, there's a camera over there. If they do miss, they can come to our office and watch a makeup of the video Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. to 5:30. Okay? So there's always hope. Although I appear very strict, I'm also very merciful. And I want your kids to get confirmed, to be happy and to be holy, and for nothing to get in the way of that, okay? So there's always an option. Don't say, my kid didn't do this, there's no hope. There's always hope, okay? There are going to be 10 hours of community service mandatory. To be honest, I don't care if your kids do those 10 hours with the school or with the church or with whatever other organization. We're very lenient about that. But we are going to have 2 service days. We'll send those out to you as necessary. It's important that your kids pay attention, and I promise you that they will, because I'm going to repeat things 1,001 times. But they're going to have to do an interview with myself or with Claire, and also with Father Urel, who's extraordinarily strict, although he looks so sweet. I'm just kidding. He's not strict. I'm just joking about that because he's back there. All right, so this is going to be the most important information concerning confirmation. Are you ready? Your children need 3 things besides attendance in order to get confirmed. A copy of their baptismal certificate. You need to try and find that. If, let's say, they were baptized in Tahiti and the church burned down and there's no records of it, try to find a picture of the baptism and be like, that's me, that's the baby. Okay, you need to have this because the sacrament is a continuation of the sacrament of baptism. So you need that. They need to have a sponsor. I'll take questions at the end. They need to have a sponsor. The sponsor must be a practicing Catholic who's been confirmed, who's over the age of 16, who is not your parents. This might be difficult to find, but there might be individuals in this group of people who might be willing to take on a spiritual child in their care, to pray for them, etc. So there's always hope for that. So 2 things, baptismal certificate, a sponsor, and a patron saint, and I'll talk to your kids about that later. Claire, am I forgetting anything?
No.
Are you sure? Because if I forget something, she's going to have to be the one to email you, because you all heard her. She said that it was good. Another thing, and this is kind of like selfish. A lot of times when a parent has a question, I'm going to be vulnerable. Are y'all going to reject my vulnerability? No. A lot of times when a parent has a question, there's most likely 30 other parents with the same question. If you would do me a favor and just email that question, as opposed to calling for it, because to listen to a voicemail, maybe it'd take about a minute to write down what you were asking, and then to try and get a hold of you will take about 3 or 4 more minutes. But if you just sent the email, I could copy and paste the same answer to all 50 questions. Also, if you have any emails, email them to Claire. Just kidding. No, I'm being serious. There's always some truth. Claire, C-L-A-I-R-E at sugarlandcatholic.com. She knows this. I'm not good with organization. I already confessed that to you people. All right. Am I forgetting anything else? No. So that's all the information that I have for you. I want to reiterate, there's a struggle every day. If your children are not going to have a relationship with Jesus Christ outside of the church, we have Jesus in the Eucharist. We have the sacrament of confession. One of the things that broke my heart when I was teaching at St. Lawrence was when the children were beginning to, and this happened in my own life when I started to convert. I'll just talk about my own life. When I was beginning to convert, I found the person that was giving me the hardest time to convert was my very own mother. She would criticize me a lot. She would say, "You think you're so holy? Why don't you do this, that?" And my mom's holy as heck now. But she had her own problems. And that really hurt me personally. And then as I was teaching at St. Lawrence, and my students started to want to go to confession on their own, and because maybe they didn't have a car at the time, and maybe some of your kids might be in 9th grade or 10th grade and not have a car. And one thing I don't want you to do is say, "What do you have to confess? What are you doing that you need to go to confession?" Don't do that. You want your kids to go to confession frequently. You want them to receive God's mercy frequently. A teenager, let's just be honest, one of the things that most teenagers are going to struggle with is going to be, for example, pornography. They say that the average age to exposure for pornography is 9 years old. So to imagine or to pretend like your child is not going to have this temptation is not realistic. But let's say they have that temptation and they look, but then they go to confession. And they're truly sorry. They get the grace to overcome that. They have a sense of responsibility. They're being vulnerable to somebody who's going to give them God's mercy, give them advice on how to overcome it. If you compare that to a teenager who doesn't do it, who says, "You know what? This is just how I am. I'm just going to keep looking at this." And it begins to manifest in their lives. And now you're hearing all of these scandals. You're hearing scandals in the public arena from Hollywood. You're hearing scandals in the church. These things didn't just happen out of thin air. They are bad habits that went uncorrected. So we do not want our children to feel like their parents are against them. We need to support them. We need to push them. We need to encourage them. I'm going to push the rosary in October. And so around October, if you ask your children to pray the rosary with you, I'm going to tell them, I'm going to try to persuade them, if anybody asks you to pray the rosary, never say no. So if you ask them and they say no, you'll say, keep asking because you're working on their conscience, okay? I'm gonna really do the best I can to emphasize having a real personal relationship with Jesus, so that when your children have a question or your children are making a difficult decision, they go to the chapel to make that decision. When they have a problem and they're suffering, they go to Jesus. That they don't turn to alcohol, they don't turn to drugs, they don't turn to sex, they don't turn to, whatever superficial God that the world is offering, that they know that God gives them peace that surpasses any conflict in their life. That's my hope for your children, and I know that that's deep down what everybody here wants. So let's go ahead and conclude with a prayer.